So you're thinking about buying a home, and after a crazy 2022 housing market, you're wondering what is gonna happen in 2023. And that's what we're gonna talk about today in this video. I'm actually gonna give you guys the realtor.com recently released their 2023 forecast, and we're gonna dive into the nitty-gritty details, but we all know that the year start off with low rates. Rates have ballooned up. We're gonna get into 2023 and what's gonna happen with those. Is it gonna be a buyer's market? Is it gonna be a seller's market? Are prices gonna hold up? Are prices gonna crash? Like, what is gonna go on? Should you buy now? Should you wait? What's the story? And we're gonna get after it right now. Hey, if this is your first time to the channel and you want to know everything there is to know about eating, sleeping, working, playing, the good and the bad of living in Atlanta, Georgia, well, subscribe below and ring the bell for notification so you can stay up to date on the current market nationally and here in Atlanta. My name's Denny. The team and I get calls each and every day from people just like you looking to make the move to Atlanta, and we absolutely love it. So whether you're moving next week, next year, or anytime in between, call, text, email, schedule a Zoom. We'd be happy to help you make a smooth move to Atlanta. As I mentioned in this video, let's dive into what realtor.com says is going to happen to the housing market here in 2023. So realtor.com believes that everyone, all buyers and sellers in the 2023 real estate market are going to need three things. One of those being the most up-to-date information. That's why we always recommend that you subscribe so that you can stay updated when we release new content. Reach out so that we can be a local resource here in Atlanta. But up-to-date information, because it's rapidly changing, is going to be one of the things that they say that you need. The second kind of goes back to the rapidly changing market, and that is flexibility. You see, back in March, April, May of 2022, we had this crazy market we had been dealing with for 2 years, prices going up nationally over 20% year over year, rates were historically low inventory, super seller's market, and then within like 3 to 6 months, everything changed. And so we're gonna have somewhat of a volatile market in 2023 as well. There's lots of things that could change this forecast, so you're gonna wanna be flexible with new information. And then the last, but definitely not the least, is patience. I think a lot of people ended up with buyer's remorse because they got caught up in this fear of loss and they made a decision that they later regretted. We don't want you to do that. We spend more time talking people out of buying homes than we do talking people into buying homes. Now listen, we'll be the first ones to tell you, like, this is the one, you don't want to miss out, pull the trigger, great opportunity, or hey, you know what, based on all the things you told us, this is probably not the one for you. Don't get too impatient and don't make a decision that you'll later regret. And so with the flexibility, we also want you to have patience through the process with the changing market. And those are the three things that realtors.com says is going to be very important in the 2023 market. Along with that, it could end up being really a nobody's market. What's a nobody's market? Well, in late 2021, early 22, it was a seller's market. I mean, there's no inventory, so very few homes, tons of buyers. It really created an unhealthy market. The sellers had all the leverage. Now, inventory's starting to grow, so there's more and more homes available. If you're selling your home now, you're gonna have to make an adjustment because this market is not the market of a year ago or even 6 months ago. So prices have leveled off. Some markets they're down a little bit, some markets they're up a little bit, but they're pretty level. So you're not going to be able to overprice a property, and then there's more competition, which means that sellers are having to be more flexible on terms and buyers are going to have more choices. Now, it's not going to be a buyer's market where you just have homes everywhere, inventory explodes. It is rising, but inventory explodes to the point where buyers get to be really picky and really choosy in terms of the home they want and the terms they want and all of those things. And so it's really going to be more of a balanced market. So you can call it balanced or you call it nobody. It's not buyer's market, it's not seller's market. People are really going to have to come to an agreement, but I believe personally that that's a healthier market. So you will see inventory go up, but you will still see prices stay up and or go maybe a little bit up or a little bit down, but definitely not a situation, at least currently, with low unemployment and other things where you see just a complete frenzy for buyers or sellers. So existing home sales are actually down. They're forecasted to be down 14% this year, which puts it closer to the 2012 volume. So we should see nationally about 4.5 million homes sold in 2023. As I mentioned, with those prices remaining fairly high at this point and mortgage rates going up, really buyers' budgets and buying power is continuing to be squeezed. And so what that's going to really lead to is lower overall volume, which if you're a buyer or a seller, the volume doesn't really matter. You don't care how many millions of homes are sold. But what you do need to understand is that with higher interest rates, they're coming down a little bit. They peaked all the way up in 7s and they're fluctuated in 5s and 6s, but they're not what they were. So buying power rates, those are still going to be affected with high prices. And so overall volume is going to be down. Speaking of interest rates, you won't be seeing any of those super historically low interest rates anytime soon, at least not in 2023. Realtor.com feels like across the year that you're going to see an average of 5.3%, which is not that historically low 3, but it's not that recent high where we hit in the 7s. And so because of that interest rate environment, that's really going to keep a lid kind of on prices. So that'll keep prices from going up 10 or 20% a year over year, which obviously is unsustainable anyway. But unless there's some drastic changes, there probably won't be a crash in prices either, which leads to that, again, more balanced market. But at least Realtor.com doesn't see those 3 and 4% rates coming back in 2023, but much better news than the 7 of late. So one of the challenges with that elevated rate is if it doesn't come down any further, like obviously we're coming down from 7, which is great news, but you could have been in the market for the last 6 months or more. And if you got qualified at 3% or even 5% and then rates ballooned up to 5, 6, 7%, well, then you need to reassess your budget. You need to reassess what you're qualified for. You need to reassess what the market looks like in that price point and if it makes sense for you to buy or sell in this environment. I think a lot of people are doing that, but resetting expectations is probably the biggest challenge in this kind of rapidly shifting market, because you would think this would be obvious, but not everybody understands. Like, you have a certain income, a certain amount of debt, and that debt to income ratio means that you qualify for a certain budget, like let's call it $500,000. But really what you qualify is a certain payment, and part of that payment is the principal. That's what you pay for the home, interest, taxes, and insurance. Now the taxes and insurance haven't changed. The principal, that, assuming that your budget was $500, that's not different. The sales price, really what changed was the interest. So higher interest means higher payments means lower purchasing power for the home. And so really those elevated rates are going to affect everyone's budget. And if you haven't already, I would suggest the first thing you do is connect with your lender to make sure that your expectations are still in alignment with what you qualify for and then ultimately what you're shopping for. And if you need an introduction, we have great preferred lenders and resources, and we would be glad to share those with you. So with slowing sales comes rising inventory, which is frankly good news. It's nice to have more homes on the market. It's nice to have more homes to choose from, especially if you're a buyer. If you're a seller, you're gonna have to reset expectations, which we've talked a lot about here already. But as a buyer, as that inventory grows, again, you get to make more choices. Sellers are gonna be more motivated to negotiate better terms, but it won't be an all-out buyer's market. So Realtor.com is forecasting that the inventory is going to rise nationally about 22.8%. So we'll have almost a good quarter of more homes on the market, which will be great. Now, however, we are still going to be 15% below the 2019 levels, which was pre-pandemic levels. So we still don't have just like a glut of inventory. Really a balanced market is around that 6 months of inventory, and we're only at about 2 or 3 months depending on the market across the nation right now. So we've got a good ways to go. Even with the 22.8% increase, we won't quite be to that 2019 level. That goes without saying that these prices, interest rates, and your income, that's really what's gonna make or break home buyers in 2023. Incomes have been up. They've been up as much as 5% across the country, but unfortunately, inflation's been up 7 to 9% across the country, and housing is a big part of that number, and as well as groceries and just everyday living expenses. We've gotten a little bit of relief at the pump lately, but overall, incomes are up 5%, inflation's up 7%, and with the crazy home price appreciation, that with elevated interest rates, that's really what's going to determine whether or not people, you included, myself, can buy or sell in 2023. Now, having said that, they did a poll and 44% of current renters said that the one thing that is keeping them from buying is not having enough saved for that initial down payment. Now, I think a lot of that, if we went back and talked to all those people, I always believe that there's a lack of resourcefulness. It's never a lack of resources. And so there's a lot that people don't know, loan programs, first-time home buyer programs, grants, and things of that nature that people could take advantage of if they really wanted to get into a home purchase. And we're well aware and familiar with all of those things, and we'd be glad to help. So if you happen to be one of those renters that does want to buy a home and you're wondering where to find those resources, we'd love to be a resource for you. Buyers who are still looking to make it happen in 2023 are going to look further out, and sometimes much further out. We've seen it here in Atlanta. There has been an explosion in the suburb, particularly North Atlanta, surrounding the major metro area, and that's going to continue in 2023. But first-time home buyers and other buyers who are seeking affordability are even going to continue to look even further out. With remote working, you don't have to live right in the downtown metro in order to have a great lifestyle. I know for us, like, I rarely go into the city. The one thing I can't get in Alpharetta, where I live, versus in the city of Atlanta, is an Atlanta United game or a Falcons game. And so there are a few things, but for the most part, I go to a lot of United games. But unless there is something in the city that you absolutely cannot live without, a lot of buyers are going to be exploring further out. I know that 61% of all searches in the third quarter of 2022 on realtor.com were at kind of further out. They were across the state or across the country. And so that is going to be the continued story for buyers in 2023. Not all buyers, but I want to talk to the first-time home buyers really quick, because realtor.com feels like it's going to continue to be a very tricky road for the first-time home buyers, and I tend to agree. And the reason being because we talked about inflation, right? The prices are up at the pump. They're up for food, not just housing like home ownership, but rents have been going up a lot across the country too, and they're forecasted to go up another 5 or 6% nationally this year as well. So with rising rents, rising food costs, if all your other lifestyle expenses are going up, and yet you still need to save for the down payment, closing costs, things of that nature, that's going to make it a little tricky for first-time home buyers in 2023. That's why a lot of them are going to look further out for more affordability. But again, there are resources that you may not be aware of that we are aware of, so we'd love to be a resource. For the first time ever, first-time home buyers in 2022 made up just 26% of the market, about 1 in 4 purchases. Normally that's much, much higher, at least 1 in 3. It's usually above 30-35%. And so again, tricky road ahead in 2023 for first-time home buyers. But it's not just about buyers. Sellers are going to need to make some adjustments too, especially to their expectations. This is not the market that it was last year. So they're going to need to expect, longer timelines, more days on market. You're not going to be able to overprice. You're going to have to maybe negotiate on terms. You're going to have to do some negotiations with buyers if you want to move your property quickly. If not, if it's overpriced or there's some issues, it's going to sit even longer. There's going to be a lot more competition with rising inventory. And so all those things it's not going to be a buyer's market, but I didn't want to leave you sellers out. I didn't want you thinking that this was just about buyers, because sellers now are having to make some of those concessions. There are inspection contingencies and financing contingencies and maybe some repair requests and things of that nature. So for all of you who are considering selling, it's still a great time to sell because prices are higher than they ever have been and they haven't come down now. We don't expect a price crash in 2023, but never say never. never. If the stock market continues to falter, if jobless claims go up and unemployment goes up and things start to get a little shaky, well, prices could come down quickly. And so if you are thinking about selling, now is probably the best time. You'll get the best price. Maybe not the same one that you would have 6 months ago, but it's definitely better than if a crash of 2008, heaven forbid we see something like that. I see so many people who are like, Denny, I don't know if I should sell. Where am I going to buy? Or listen, I don't have a crystal ball. I'm just telling you what realtor.com said. I believe personally, this is the best time there's ever been to sell a home. Now, what you do on the other side of that probably requires that we have a conversation. So give me a shout. Let's talk it out. See what you're going to do if and when you sell your home. All right, well, let's just recap. 2023 doesn't look like the sky is falling. What it looks like is a balanced market between buyers and sellers. Sellers are gonna have to adjust their expectations. Buyers are gonna have more choices, but elevated prices, interest rates, all of those things, and inflation and affordability, all of those things are gonna be a factor. This was a national data across the entire country. This is not exactly what's gonna happen here in Atlanta. I actually have a few other videos that you should probably check out on the local Atlanta market, or give us a call. One in particular talks about how Atlanta is still a kind of a hidden gem, one of the best places to be in 2023 and to buy a house. But where in Atlanta, what makes sense for you, that's what we're here for. So whether you're moving next week, next year, anytime in between, call, text, email, schedule a Zoom. We'd be happy to help you make a smooth move. And until we see you in person, we'll see you on the next episode.